Hi geographers, and welcome to the latest video for the CVA Geography YouTube channel. In this video today I'll be talking through the whole topic of the living world. The living world is where we look at ecosystems, tropical rainforests and hot deserts. It's on paper 1 and it's question 2. What I suggest you do for this is just have a piece of paper and a pen, and that way you can write down any key knowledge. You can write out the chains of reasons as I explain them, as I go through the whole topic. At the end of this video will be a selection of exam questions where you can feel free to pause and answer the exam questions, where you can then either check your answers with the models provided, or you can send them in or bring them in to your geography teacher to check. Right, so let's get this ball rolling. So, what is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is a natural system which consists of biotic and abiotic features. So the biotic is the living species within an ecosystem. This could be the animals, the plants. And the abiotic are the non-living features. This could refer to the climate, the soil, the rock type. Okay. What makes up an ecosystem? We've got three really key words here, so if you don't know these, I'll suggest writing them down. We've got producers. Producers use sunlight to produce energy through photosynthesis, and these are always the start of any food chain or food web. They get their energy from the sun. Consumers are organisms which get their energy from eating the producer or by eating other consumers. And then decomposers are organisms that gets energy by breaking down dead material, and they return these nutrients back into the soil. So please feel free to pause if you don't know what those are already. Within an ecosystem you can get a food chain or a food web. A food chain shows a simplistic movement of nutrients from a producer to a consumer. So we can see that the reed is the producer in figure 2, then the moth larva is a consumer, which is consumed by the eel and then consumed by the bittern. What figure 1 shows is a food web, and a food web is a more complex food chain showing the movement of nutrients throughout a whole ecosystem. So when we look at the food chain, it might show you that the waterweed is eaten not just by one organism, but by the slug, the fly, the carp, and the prawn. Okay. As you move along a food chain or up a food web, the number of organisms and biomass decreases. Okay. The reasons for this is energy is lost through excretion. Not all of the organism might be consumed, and energy is lost through hunting. So energy in the food chain web decreases as you go higher up. Right, we needed to look at a small scale UK ecosystem, and we looked at Slapton Lake, which is a freshwater lagoon in Dorset, Devon and what we can see at Slapton Lake is this is the lagoon and this is a bar, and the lagoon is getting its supply of fresh water from a river. In Slapton Lake, what we have is a very, very fragile ecosystem. The ecosystem consists mainly of small fish and then large birds, which are the predators. We've got our producers here, which is the water lily and the algae. And what we need to understand is how changes to this ecosystem can affect it. So one change that could possibly happen is the bar could be eroded by the sea. If the bar is eroded by the sea, this is a physical change, this would mean the salt water would kill the stickleback and the perch, which means the kingfisher and heron would lose their source of food, therefore they would migrate away from the area. A human change to the ecosystem could be tourists going to the beach on the bar. Tourists could be very noisy and loud, and this could scare the kingfisher and the heron. If the kingfisher and heron were scared and flew away, it would lead to an increased number of stickleback and perch. If the stickleback and perch increased, this would lead to the water bowmen being overeaten and going extinct, and at that point the stickleback and perch would then go extinct as they would have lost their source of food. So even these small changes, such as a bar being eroded or tourism in the area, can have a drastic impact on the ecosystem. So again, they're just here, changes. If you'd like to jot them down, go back and listen to the change of reason, that would be great. Within an ecosystem, nutrients also move around. There are three stores of nutrients. Nutrients are stored in the soil. The soil gets its nutrients from the breaking down of rock and also decomposition of litter. The nutrients in the soil are taken up through the roots and they are then stored in biomass. This is plants and animals. When a plant dies or an animal dies or an animal excretes, it falls to the ground as litter. This dead organism on the ground, which is litter, will eventually decompose and this will return the nutrients back into the soil. Sometimes nutrients are lost in litter as surface runoff. The rain might wash the litter away, and through soil erosion. So if there's soil erosion or leaching taking place, heavy rainfall can wash the nutrients out of the soil. So we've got global ecosystems. This is just a quick overview of the 6 main ecosystems on Earth. We've got tropical rainforests found along the equator. Climate is very hot, very wet, high biodiversity. We've got hot deserts, which are found on the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn. High temperatures during the day, low temperatures at night, low rainfall, low biodiversity. The polar ecosystems found at high altitudes, distinctly very, very cold. During the winter months, it can reach down to -30, -40 degrees. Very low precipitation, and there isn't a lot of vegetation growing because during the winter months it is completely dark for months on end. The temperate deciduous forest, found at around 60 degrees north of the equator, it's effectively the UK. Lots of vegetation grows, provides habitats for wildlife. The vegetation here is non-coniferous, deciduous, I should say. And what this means is the trees shed their leaves in autumn. The climate's also got 4 distinct seasons. We've got winter, spring, summer, and autumn. We then have the savanna, which is found at low latitudes, so often between 0 degrees, which is the equator, and 30 degrees, just north and south of the tropics. The savanna is a hot grassland. What we find here is 2 climates. You've got dry season and wet season, and you often find animals migrating these areas in search of water sources. Vegetation is there, but as you can see in the picture, it's very sparse, often with trees having deep roots to access groundwater. And then finally, the tundra. These are found at high latitudes, probably around 70 to 80 degrees north and south of the equator, in areas like northern Russia, northern Canada. In the winter months, it's frozen due to snowfall and really low temperatures, and in the summer months they have a mild, moderate climate where it gives vegetation a short growing season, so you can see some shrubbery around there. So let's move on to tropical rainforests. So tropical rainforests are found mainly on the equator. The largest area of tropical rainforest is in South America, and this is known as the Amazon. We study the Amazon and we look at the Brazilian Amazon in detail. The characteristics of a rainforest is very, very high biodiversity. Over half of the world's plants or animals and insects are found within this region. So what is the climate like in the rainforest? The climate of a rainforest is extremely hot. Temperatures range between 28 and 30 degrees. So all year it's going to be around 28 to 30 degrees. Rainfall is very high with around 2,500 millimeters of rainfall. This is key to get down, that it's very, very hot, very, very wet. And what this means is due to the high heat and high levels of water, it provides the perfect growing conditions for vegetation to grow, hence why we have such dense vegetation. We also have the layers of the rainforest. Trees want to grow tall in the rainforest, where there are so many trees, need to get taller and taller to access the sunlight. So the emergent layer is the highest layer, it's around 50 meters high. This is where you find the odd, really, really tall tree like the kapok tree. The canopy is around 30 meters high, and this is a dense layer of vegetation where you find a lot of life in the rainforest. You find lots of vegetation, you find lots of monkeys and sloths. You then have the understory, which is between 10 and 30 meters high, and this is a layer where it will be very dark due to the canopy blocking the sunlight, and you often find thin tree trunks as well as lianas, which are vines wrapping around the trunks trying to get the sunlight. And then the forest floor, which is obviously at the bottom. This area you'll find decomposes. You'll find insects, you might find humans, gorillas. It's also going to be very dark because the sunlight is blocked from the canopies that come through. So, animals and plants in the rainforest. Like I said, rainforests make up 6% of Earth's surface, but are home to over 50% of the world's plants and animals. And this provides a challenge. There's massive challenges in the rainforest for animals and plants, and you need to know them. One challenge, lots of rain. Second challenge, food is high up in the canopy at 30 metres. It's very dark on the forest floor, and there's heavy rainfall. So we can go through and see how animals and plants have adapted to survive. So plants first. Epiphytes. These are plants which have their roots are in another tree. They attach themselves to smaller trees, and as the tree grows, the epiphyte then sticks on the tree and it grows with it. It goes up into the canopy. It gets its nutrients from moisture in the air, and as it goes higher up into the canopy, you can get the sunlight to photosynthesize. Buttress roots. Buttress roots are wide roots above the soil. Trees have buttress roots because it offers them a large surface area, and this gives them support, which means the tree can grow to heights of 50 metres like the K-pop tree to access 100% sunlight to get the energy from photosynthesis. Drip tip leaves. These are leaves with a pointed end, and what this means water runs off the leaf and literally drips off the end, which means bacteria doesn't grow on the leaf, so therefore with no bacteria the leaf can access more sunlight to photosynthesize. And as I've already mentioned, one type of plant is a liana. Lianas are vines which have their roots in the soil, and they wrap around the trunks of taller trees and use that as support in order to access the higher levels such as the canopy to get more sunlight. And then animals, sloths. Sloths are slow, easy to be eaten by a jaguar. However, the sloth has very, very strong claws, and this means it has grip so it can stay in the canopy away from the large cats on the floor. Additionally, sloths don't wash. They allow bacteria to grow on them, which is green, and this means they are camouflaged in the canopy, which means it's less likely for them to be eaten. Spider monkeys have a prehensile tail. In other words, they've got a really, really strong tail. This means the spider monkeys can use their tail to wrap around tree branches, and then this means they can use all four limbs, arms and legs, to access the food in the canopy so they get the nutrients they needed to survive. Right, so let's just have a little thing now about how people impact the rainforest. So the rainforest is a really fragile ecosystem. It's got a very, very thin layer of fertile soil we can see in the diagram here, with any subsoil being very infertile. There's lots of vegetation and it's home to around 50% of the biodiversity on Earth. That acts as carbon sinks. So if humans are going to interact here and remove trees, this could have a negative impact. What we can see on the next slide is deforestation in Brazil. Okay, deforestation in the Amazon was going down from 2004 to around 2017. It was decreasing. However, since 2017, the rate of deforestation is starting to increase, and this is due to economic development. Brazil wanting to economically get richer. So, let's have a look. You need to know the causes of deforestation. There's lots of them. The largest cause of deforestation in Brazil is cattle ranching. Okay, but I'm now going to talk through each cause and how it causes deforestation. Okay, so first one is subsistence farming. This is small-scale farming. Farmers use a strategy of slash and burn, which is where they clear a small area of forest by setting it on fire. This means the burnt trees will provide nutrients and break down to the soil, which means the farmer can then grow crops. After a while, the land becoming fertile, the farmer moves on, does the same slash and burn, and can grow more crops. Very small scale. Another cause of deforestation is logging. Logging for hardwood, such as trees like mahogany. This is used as they clear the trees for the mahogany, manufacture it into tables, and then can export it as manufactured product. Road building is another cause of deforestation. The Trans-Amazonian highways are 4,000 kilometers in length, going from Peru to Brazil. This has meant that Communities in the rainforest have better access in and out of the rainforest to access cities, which means they've got a better quality of life, so they can get to school, to hospital. Okay. Downsides to this: either side of the road now there's 10 kilometres of deforestation because it's made it more accessible for loggers. Another cause of deforestation is energy development. Along the Amazon River, Brazil has built the Belo Monte Dam. This is one of the largest dams in the world. It's the third largest. And what this dam does is they've built the dam, the turbines in the dam spin, generating hydroelectric power. This means Brazil can export any excess energy, the government can get taxed and improve schools. Downside: by building the dam, it's flooded the rainforest. By building the dam, it's flooded the rainforest and forcibly evicted 20,000 indigenous people from their land. And another cause of deforestation is urbanisation. Manaus is a city in the centre of the Amazon, northern Brazilian Amazon, and it's home to 2 million people. This has been really good for people of the Amazon. It's offering them access to higher paying jobs, offering them access to education and healthcare, really improving the quality of life. However, it's also bad for the rate of deforestation because people are getting further and deeper into the rainforest, causing more havoc, destroying more habitat, leading to the extinction of animals. And then we get onto the big one, the biggest cause of deforestation is cattle farming. Trees are cleared to have land to allow cows to graze. This is massive in Brazil. Brazil, due to this, is the largest exporter of beef in the world, and in 2021 made $7 billion. This means the government receives more taxes, which means they can improve schools in Brazil, and therefore this is creating a really highly educated workforce, allowing the country to economically develop. Really good for Brazil. Another cause of deforestation, the last one, is mining. This is a picture of the Carajás iron ore mine in Brazil, and what is happening is this iron ore mine has created 30,000 jobs for local people as miners. This means people have more disposable income, so they're able to buy healthier foods, which means people are healthier and therefore they're going to live a longer life. So a lot of those deforestation causes lead to positive economic impacts. However, this picture here shows slash and burn, trees being burnt, and this has a negative impact for the world. Okay, the Amazon rainforest stores 140 billion tons of carbon. When trees are burnt, it releases the carbon. 75% of Brazil's CO2 emissions come from slash and burn and deforestation. This means the atmosphere gets thicker with more greenhouse gases, which means more solar radiation is trapped, so global temperatures are going to increase. Another impact of deforestation: soil erosion. Each year, Brazil is losing 100 tons of topsoil per hectare per year. This means the top fertile part of the soil is washed away, which means infertile soil is left behind. Therefore, no trees will ever grow back in the area. So it can't be used for farming and it can't provide habitat for animals. And due to these negative impacts of deforestation, although there are the positive economic ones, due to the negative ones, people are thinking what can be done to stop deforestation, and we've got sustainable management strategies next to talk through. So, one sustainable management strategy is education. This is where people are being taught about the negative impacts of deforestation, and this is making people aware and wanting to try to stop it. So the knowledge for this is due to increased education. In 2021, 40 supermarkets stopped buying Brazilian products as people were not happy with the product coming from deforestation. This led to the companies in Brazil losing money and ultimately led to them stopping their deforestation, sourcing their products in a different way which is more sustainable so they could make profit. This is ecotourism. Ecotourism is small-scale tourism having a positive impact on the local economy and the environment. Ecotourism, such as these lodges in Brazil, attracts 3.7 million tourists a year, and it generates around £370 million. This means the government gets taxed, which can improve schools. In addition, it also creates jobs for local people. This shows international hardwood agreements, the FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council, and this monitors global trade of wood. Without this stamp, you cannot sell your hardwood internationally. To get this stamp, trees need to be selectively logged, which is where the older trees are cut down, the younger trees are allowed to grow. So by following this, people can sell their trees and wood in a sustainable manner, ensuring there's a rainforest for the future generations. And finally, we've got debt reduction. So in 2010, the USA signed a deal with Brazil to reduce their debt of $21 million. This meant Brazil no longer had as much debt to pay off, so there was no demand for them to cut down the trees. So due to their debt being cancelled, they didn't need to make as much money, so they could cut down less trees. And that is rainforests. So now we come on to hot deserts. So where are hot deserts? It's worth jotting down. Hot deserts are mainly located along the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. We've got the Sahara Desert in northern Africa. We've also got the Thar Desert in India and Pakistan. The reason they're there is because the equator is an area of low pressure which gets rain, and the tropics are an area of high pressure which leads to a low rainfall. In the deserts, the climate, the physical characteristics, it's very hot and dry. Temperatures can reach 50 degrees during the day, but the temperatures have got a large diurnal range. So you can go from 50 degrees in the daytime to 0 degrees at night. Lack of rainfall is also key to be a desert. To be classed as a desert, an area needs to have less than 250 millimetres of rainfall a year. So that's very key knowledge to get down with what climate characteristics make a desert. So again, that's just reiterating the climate there. We've got high temperatures up to 45, 50 degrees and low rainfall. So deserts have a low biodiversity. This is due to the high rainfall, the high temperatures and low rainfall. The soil, due to the lack of rainfall, is very infertile. Where the soil is so infertile and lacking nutrients, that means that plants cannot grow. If plants can't grow, there's little litter on the floor, so decomposition can't happen, and then the soil cannot get nutrients. It's a vicious cycle of being stuck in this dry and fertile land. However, people do live in deserts. Around 1 billion people live in deserts around the world. Some people that live in deserts are very, very wealthy in HICs like the United Arab Emirates. Dubai is in a desert, but the majority of people living in deserts are known as nomadic tribes. As you can see in figure 6, a nomadic tribe in Mali. These are small little tribes, small communities that are constantly moving around, finding land to farm, and then moving on. So, we've got the biotic, the living and non-living components, which all depend on each other in deserts. We're going to go through and have a little look at that now. Skip that. So, plants have a lot of struggles in the desert, don't they? It's hot and it doesn't rain, so plants have adapted. We've got the mesquite tree. It's adapted by having deep roots. This means the tree can access groundwater, which means it can get the water, the nutrients it needs to survive despite the low rainfall. The other plant adaptation is a saguaro cactus. The saguaro cactus has got pleated skin. This means its stem can expand to store 5 tons of water, which means the plant will survive for long periods of drought. In addition, cacti have spines, little spiky prickly bits, they're called spines, and this prevents loss of water through transpiration. So what this means is any water falls to the floor when it rains, and the cacti's long, shallow root system absorbs this water, which means the cacti can then store it and use it during the drought. We also have animal adaptations. This is a camel. Camels have adapted to survive in the desert. They've got long, double eyelashes. This means the sand will not go in their eye, so therefore they can travel long distances. They've got large, flat feet. This means they've got grip and support for walking over uneven sand dunes, therefore they can travel long distances. In the hump of a camel, it stores fat. This fat provides the camel with energy and nutrients, which means the camel can survive long periods on walks without eating, which is crucial as there is a lack of food for the herbivore of the camel in the desert. And finally, they can drink really quickly and quite a lot of water, so they can drink 32 gallons of water in one sitting, meaning that they're going to be very well suited to survive with the lack of rainfall, as there's only 250 millimetres a year. Another animal is the fennec fox. Fennec foxes have large ears. This means they can lose body heat, which allows them to regulate their blood and body temperature, preventing them overheating. They've got extra padding on their feet and thin fur, again allowing them to walk along the sand without burning themselves. And they're also nocturnal with thick fur. So this is key, because at night time they go out and hunt to avoid the temperatures, and their fur is quite thick for the night time because this means they can stay warm during the cold temperatures. And then we look at development in deserts. How do deserts provide opportunities for economic development? Our example of a desert is the Thar Desert, which is on the northwest India and southeast Pakistan border. It is the most densely populated desert in the world. So there must be something good about it if people choose to live there. So you should be getting down there and notes on the opportunities. First opportunity is mining. Um, Mining of limestone takes place within the Thar Desert, and limestone is exported, it should say $28 million worth of it a year. This means the government can receive taxes from the exports, which means they've got more money to improve schools and hospitals. Solar energy generates solar energy is generated as the desert has 10 hours of sunlight per day. This creates electricity, and this is then used to power water treatment plants, which means the people of the Thar Desert have access to clean water, reducing the risk of waterborne diseases. Another opportunity is the Indira Gandhi Canal. This was a canal opened in 1948 to transfer water from the area of Punjab in northern India to the desert. What this has done is this provides water for irrigation, so farmers can now harvest their cotton and wheat twice a year. This means farmers have more crops to sell, so they'll have more disposable income. And the final opportunity is the annual Desert Festival and tourism. So tourism attracts 500,000 people a year to the Thar Desert. This creates jobs for local people who will then pay taxes on that. In addition, when people come in and visit on holiday, they're spending money in the local economy, again generating taxes for the government. The challenges of living in the Thar Desert are high temperatures exceeding 50 degrees, lack of rainfall, less than 250 millimeters, and also it's inaccessible, so there's not many roads. And what this means is people that might live in rural villages cannot access healthcare in the large cities like Jaisalmer if they are sick. And then we come along to desertification. Desertification is a challenge for areas on the fringes of hot deserts, and this is where vegetation dies or is removed. This exposes the soil to erosion because the roots no longer hold it together. This means the topsoil is washed away, leaving behind infertile land, and eventually the sand becomes dusty, stony, bare rock. This is happening in an area called the Sahel, which is in Africa, and it's south of the Sahara Desert. What's going on here is the Sahara Desert is moving south around 10 miles per year, and we need to understand what's causing the Sahel to be turning into desert. Climate change is one cause. In Burkina Faso, which is in the Sahel, temperatures have increased by 1.7 degrees since the 1960s. This means that more moisture is evaporated from the soil, so less plants can grow, which means there are less roots holding the soil in place. Therefore, the wind blows away the topsoil, leaving behind the infertile soil. Population growth, on the other hand, is probably a larger cause of desertification, as over 100 million people live in the Sahel, and this puts pressure on the resources. For example, 100 million people has led to more deforestation as people cut down the trees for firewood. If trees are cut down, this means there's less leaf litter falling to the ground to decompose. This means there's less roots holding the topsoil in place, which means when it's windy or there's infrequent rain, the topsoil is removed, it's eroded away, therefore leaving behind infertile soil so nothing will grow in the future. And also overgrazing and overcultivation. This is overgrazing when too many animals are kept on a piece of land. They overeat the vegetation, so the vegetation is removed. Topsoil will then be washed away, leaving behind the infertile soil. And overcultivation is when farmers plant too many crops regularly on the soil without allowing the soil to recover. So by the plants absorbing too many nutrients from the soil itself loses nutrients. This means the plants will die. The topsoil will have nothing in place holding it together, so it will blow away, leaving behind infertile desert. So that's desertification, but the Sahel is not doomed. There are strategies to stop it, and one strategy is tree planting, afforestation. In the Sahel, there is this project called the Great Green Wall, and it's planting 11 million trees in Senegal. This is looking to stop desertification, as it means leaf litter will fall to the floor and decompose, which will add more nutrients to the soil, preventing desertification. Alternatively, you could say the roots from the trees hold the soil in place, preventing soil erosion. Another strategy to stop desertification is appropriate technology. This is technology which is suited to the needs, skills and wealth of people, and this is a Toyola stove. A Toyola stove is a clay cooking utensil, pot I should say, and it requires less firewood. So as it requires less firewood, it means less trees are cut down. As less trees are cut down, the roots can hold the soil in place, preventing soil erosion, so the soil is not blown away and doesn't turn to desert. And the final strategy is stone lines, and these are used in Burkina Faso, and effectively it's just lines of stones placed on a hill. What this does is the stones prevent surface runoff. They trap any excess water, carrying away any soil. The stones stop the soil eroding, stop any litter eroding, allowing it time to decompose and return the nutrients to the soil. By doing this, by stopping the soil erosion, this means that the soil gains nutrients, becomes fertile, can be used again and no longer turns to desert. So that's the big spiel of the whole topic over. What I've got now is some exam questions. I suggest you pause the video on each question and then resume playing and it will go through to the answers or to the next question. So here's the first set. Please pause it now to attempt the questions. And here are the answers. Again, you can pause it now to read the answers. Please pause. And the answers. Please pause to read the answers. And then there'll be more questions. Please pause. And then the answers. And then more questions. This one's on deforestation and tropical rainforests. Please pause, read the figure. It will really help you answer question 3. And now the answers. Please pause. This question is asking how animals are adapted to live in the rainforest. Use figure 6. You must have one paragraph on a spider monkey. Please follow KUU. You then need to have a second animal adaptation. Please follow KUU. I've got some keywords in there for you as well. Make sure you're explaining how it helps the animals survive in the challenges of the rainforest. The next question, exactly the same structure, apart from this question is asking you about plants rather than animals. You need KUU on 2 plant adaptations in the rainforest. Use the figure, you can see buttress roots, you can see drip tips. Explain how they help the plant survive. Please pause. And the next question, assess the causes of deforestation in the tropical rainforest. Use figure 11 on an example you studied. To succeed in here, you need an AKUU on the biggest cause of deforestation you believe, and an AKUU on a less significant cause of deforestation. Can you bring in 2 bits of PLC for more examples? Here's a model answer I made for you to then check your answer. So you pause, do the answer, and I'll show you the model. Does yours look like this? I'll leave it there for you to mark. Next question. So what this question is asking you to do is explain how deforestation can cause soil erosion, how it can cause climate change, how it can cause deforestation. Success criteria is here for you. Follow KUU, take a bit of PLC from each figure. Please pause. You get. And I'll leave it there for you to pause and look at your answers. Next questions are looking at climate graphs. Please pause and answer the questions using the graphs. And the answers. I'll let you pause it there. See your answers. Next question. Explain 2 ways human activity is affecting the interdependence of features of hot deserts. Explain how humans can impact the desert. KUU. Do it twice. Use the figure. We can give you a writing frame for this one. Pause. And then here is an answer. Next question. This question is asking you about plants and animals within a hostile environment. Ignore the cold environments, you don't do that. What you need to do is a KUU on a cactus, a KUU on a camel, and explain how it helps the animal survive. The PLC could be facts such as less than 250 millimeters of rain. Please pause and have a go. Next question, using a case study of a hot desert environment that you studied, assess the opportunities and challenges for economic development. We're going to talk about the far desert, an AKUU on the biggest opportunity, an AKUU on a challenge, and 2 specific facts about the area. Conclusion, are there more opportunities or challenges in the far desert? Please pause it there. Next question, the biggest cause of desertification is the removal of fuel wood. To what extent do you agree with the statement? So you need to follow AKUU on one cause of desertification in the Sahel, another AKUU on another cause of desertification, and then your conclusion. You must have at least one paragraph on the removal of fuel wood. Your other one could be on climate change, overgrazing, or overcultivation in the Sahel. Please pause. And the next question. Using an example of a hot desert environment that you've studied, assess the effectiveness of management strategies used to reduce the risk of desertification. So you need an AKUU on one strategy to stop desertification, maybe stone lines, an AKUU on a second strategy, maybe the Great Green Wall or Toyota stoves, and then a conclusion. Which strategy is the best? You don't need to pause this one because it's the last slide, so I'm just going to leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it useful. If you want your teachers to mark any of the exam questions you've done, please feel free to email it to them or bring it into school to show them. I hope this has helped you recap any key knowledge and chains of reason from the living world. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to CVA Geography to keep up to date with any more videos coming out to help you with your GCSE in geography. Thank you.